out to Ohio.
He's bad at his job.
Let's go to Ohio. Daniel, he's in Martinez. He wants to jump on this LeBron talk. What's up, Ohio, Daniel?
Hey, Steiny. Hey, Evan. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Fantastic.
I think that I think LeBron's coming back to Cleveland. I think he is.
Oh.
The Cavs are going to draft Bronny. Now, listen to me. We're going to draft Bronny, and LeBron has already announced numerous times that he is going to go and play his final season wherever his son goes. And I think Gilbert is going to do that. And I think he will spend his final season in Cleveland. But if the Warriors could get LeBron, they should do everything they can because he's still a top 5 player in the NBA. So,
yeah, I'm not against that, Ohio, Daniel, and thanks for the call. I mean, there's so many older look,
don't get me wrong, LeBron played very well in the 5-game series that they lost to Denver. In fact, you can make a case that should have won a couple of those games. I mean, LeBron was sensational. I thought Kevin Durant, despite getting swept, played really well in the first-round series against Minnesota. Both of them were around 55% shooting, 27 points, 7 and 7. They played well. But adding an even older superstar than Curry, I'm talking about LeBron specifically, I just think it spells trouble.
What about Durant?
Durant, I would be more inclined to than LeBron, but just because his contract lines up with Curry. So you have 2 years at a insurmountable number, but at least you have a natural inflection point built in. I think KD probably is going to cost as much or maybe even more than LeBron because LeBron's a 1-and-1. But the more I think about it, Steiny, neither of those two players get me excited. I mean, there's more star power coming to the Bay. There's obviously the previous relationship with Durant. But do I think that either of those two players are going to carry the Warriors over one of the top 3 teams we just saw basically just shellac where the Warriors were trying to get to?
Exactly.
I don't see it.
That's what worries me the most about a LeBron or a Durant or Paul George. Like one part of me thinks, and we're talking about the Warriors and their future. 888-957-9570. Jump into the conversation. We got some people that want to talk about it. We will. I just don't like the idea of adding somebody 34, 35 years old.
We're talking about 37 and age 40.
So, but I'm using 34, 35 because I'm lumping them all in together. Durant, LeBron. I'm even throwing Paul George in there.
He'll be 35.
I'm putting DeRozan in there, all those kind of guys.
35.
I just hate that idea right now after especially watching this regular season of the playoffs. However, if you could swing a way to get one of those guys in here, I would understand what they'd be trying to do. And so I would get that part of it. If I had to rank the guys, I probably would want Paul George first because I think he's got the most left. I think he's pretty good. How could you turn down, if you can make a deal with LeBron where you obviously are going to have to give up a ton of pieces and salary. The reason I wouldn't necessarily be against that or say that's dumb is because it'll speed up the process where you could probably get under the cap and then make something dramatic happen in a year or two. Because if you get LeBron in here, it's going to be on a short-term deal. So now you got he and Steph on short-term deals. You've obviously lost some of your players, maybe Kuminga, so he didn't get paid. Maybe Wiggins, so he's off the books. Maybe Clay, so he didn't get paid. Who else am I missing? One other guy.
Oh, Moody?
No, they're going to have Draymond Green. But if you make that move and it doesn't work, boom, in a year or two, everything kind of opens up in terms of your possibilities, and at least you can say, hey, we brought LeBron in here for a year, so it didn't work. But we might be in a better spot with financial freedom. The issue is, are the Warriors, here's the other thing we got, and this isn't for this year, but are the Warriors convinced they could land one of the elite free agents, not necessarily this year, but in the next 3 to 5 years, if they create enough money under the salary cap. I mean, I get that's an issue we don't really have to talk a lot about right now, but I actually have some doubts about whether they will be able to do that, even if they have the money to do it.
I think it depends on who the other free agent players are, but sure. I think the Warriors have reason to believe that they could be a top 3 or 4 destination. Like when someone comes out and says, where am I committing? Alabama, UNC, Georgia. In the NBA free agent circle, I think the Warriors are one of those teams. So does that mean they'll get a guy? I'm not sure, but they're right now still a marquee franchise, I believe. So that's for further down the line. I think if we're looking at the shopping list of players that we're talking about,
yep.
I think for me, first, it would be Durant, just again, because of the alignment of his contract. I also think of the 3 players, LeBron and Paul George, the other 2, he's the most durable of the 3. He's played the most minutes in the postseason in recent memory, and he's still playing at a high level. LeBron would be second because of the short-term contract, and I know that Paul George is the youngest of the 3 and might be the player you like the most, but you're going to have to give him a new contract. Mm-hmm. And the one thing I don't want to acquire this offseason if I'm the Warriors is another 4 or 5 year mega deal, unless I'm paying a younger player that. We could talk about Kuminga and what he's worth and what he's not, but I'm more inclined to give Kuminga a longer deal to see what he is than to go out and get Zach LaVine or to bring in, I don't know. Look, I'm not sure who else has a large enough contract, but LaVine's got like 3 or 4 years left. Paul George, you'd have to probably give a 3 or 4 year contract to. Those players, to me, I don't want any part of because I'm afraid we're going to end up in this same spot, Steiny, next offseason of looking at these guys and saying, you didn't perform up to your contract. How do we get off of it? Yeah. And the Warriors cannot set themselves up to get off of Jordan Poole last offseason, get off one of their albatross contracts this offseason, and then continue to look forward to getting off of big deals in the future. I just think that sets them back even further.
It's interesting. I threw this out there, and feel free to jump in at 888-957-9570. But what is the top priority this offseason for the Warriors? And, I guess the number one priority would, in theory, be acquire a superstar. Well, I'll second that.
Yeah.
That would be the number one priority. But Brian Windhorst is saying that's pie in the sky. Okay, so of all the moves that we're looking at this offseason, what would be the biggest priority for you, Evan, with just the guys on the roster? Like just the guys on the roster. Not let's see if we can go get Giannis or let's see if Paul George
Joel Embiid.
Or Joel Embiid. No. I'm talking most about, let's go through the Warrior roster. Chris Paul is essentially a free agent.
Yeah.
Klay Thompson is a free agent. They have Wiggins under contract. They got Steph under contract. They got Kuminga poised to be paid, but doesn't have to be right now. But all indications are they can go that route. They got Draymond under. Using the guys on the roster, and I'll ask this to Warrior fans at 888-957-9570, what's the first priority?
It's Andrew Wiggins.
The biggest priority.
For me, it's moving off of Andrew Wiggins' contract. Because I just laid out the contracts I don't want a part of this team. I don't want long-term, underperforming, inconsistent deals. Andrew Wiggins has been the epitome of that now for 2 seasons. I also think the second reason is because he's a stopgap for a lot of your up-and-coming players. Whether you think Kuminga's an all-star or not, Wiggins is in his way. I think he's also in Moses Moody's way, if that's someone you value.
Yeah.
The Warriors have a logjam of forwards right now that are their most inconsistent and potentially flawed players. Klay Thompson's a part of that. Andrew Wiggins a part of that. Draymond Green, for non-basketball reasons, is a part of that. And you could even throw Kuminga in there if you want. But I think they have to make a choice between those 4 guys. And if I'm selecting one I want to move off of, I think the Warriors can be as good or potentially even better with more runway for younger, rising players, which is what we've seen the postseason is going to reward you in the long term by getting off of Wiggins' contract. And that's where I'd start.
Yeah, 888-957-9570 is the number. Where would you start, Warrior fans? When I look at the Warriors and the decisions they have, I see Klay Thompson, who's a free agent, and I think there's a lot of people out there would say, well, Klay's a priority. I don't want to sound cold, but to me, Klay isn't a priority. Because in a crate like you asked me about, and I get the conundrum. This is a team that is going to need more shooting. So why would you get rid of Klay Thompson, or why would you let Klay Thompson walk? I think there's a scenario in which you could let Klay Thompson walk and be better next year. I'll use the guru. It's outside my pay grade, but I think there's a possibility, or I think it's within the realm of possibility you can get a player in there. First of all, they have Pajemski and they have Moody.
Yeah.
If you empower them, how much worse? Okay, I'll be honest, I'll put it this way: how much worse can they be than Klay was last year for long, long stretches? And they'll be better defensively. I actually think, in conjunction with another move or two, you could lose Klay, get a different kind of two in here completely. Maybe even a defensive-minded two, and you could be better. You could be better. Now, you're going to have to do some other things. So that's why, to me, Klay is not a huge priority. And here's the other reason I don't think Klay's a huge priority. Apparently, if you're bringing him back, he's a sixth man anyway. So, I mean, he's one of the all-time greats, but how much of a difference maker is he right now? 888-957-9570. Yes, sir.
1 second, son. I just want to make sure we get this super chat in from YouTube, powered by First North Cal Credit Union. No, hey. Atco Pest Control.
Oh, we got to go back. There was one from Mitch Mitchman. I'll get that one.
Okay, I got you. So this is from Atco Pest Control. Warriors should have let Dre walk last season, then let CP3 and Klay walk this offseason. They could have had plenty of space to build a contender around Steph. That's light years.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the one thing when we were talking about priorities, and Draymond Green's name came up, and I said, yeah, I'd probably look to move him. And he's going to be tough to move because only a few teams are going to want him. And he's tough to replace. But, to me, I think we're at that time. I mean, if the goal, here's the other thing that I think. Let's do it practically, where you say, Steiny, there's not as many unrealistic people who think this team's going to win a title again as you. You think that's half the fan base. It's not actually.
Well, it's dwindling by the minute.
Sure. So if a few tweaks gets you back to 49, 50 wins, and a 6 seed, and that's the new normal, I absolutely believe you could get there by making the right trade for Draymond Green. Absolutely, I believe that. Again, is it going to be challenging? Yeah, but you got to look at all the avenues. Junior's in Pacifica. What's up, Junior? How you doing, man?
Fine, thank you. Good discussion, gentlemen. I don't think Klay is a must for the Warriors, but I think he's a preferred option for us. I think that the thing that excites me most, I don't see a way that the Warriors get to be a championship team again during Steph's years. He's very slowly, bumping down a little bit in his play. His turnovers are not dropping with his production, so that's a negative against the slowly declining positive. I think that Kuminga might improve as fast as Steph declines, but the combination of the two of them doesn't ever get to amazing, I believe. So to me, the most exciting option is to bring in KD. We would have to trade Kuminga to do that for the reasons that you guys were saying. So KD and Steph finish up at the same time, and then you're open for a rebuild and a new approach to basketball than the Splash Brothers brought all these years ago. I think it would be entertaining, fun, successful, not championship successful, but you'd get people in seats, and it would be enjoyable. It would be a great story as well, and be respectful to Steph, giving him every chance to, do something amazing like they did a couple years ago. In retrospect, that was a pretty amazing title. Maybe there's one more of those, but we can't count on it. Maybe we can hope for it, and I think KD's our best bet to get in that range.
Appreciate it, Junior. That's Junior in Pacifica. I mean, when we talked about the 2022 championship, like nobody would ever give that up. That championship is what is going to be a great legacy separator, I think, for Steph Curry. Not that he wouldn't have been remembered as an all-time great with 3 rings, but that number 4, that slammed the door shut on any kind of criticism or any kind of, let's say, maligning of Steph Curry as one of the all-time greats. There's no doubt about it. But I think we also got to acknowledge that winning that title caused this team to go in a little bit of a different direction that they might be paying the price for now had they not made that run. But I get it. Like, and it's okay, great statement, Stein. I'd say they would have been better if they wouldn't have drafted Wiseman. Or they wouldn't have re-signed this guy or that guy. So maybe that's just kind of sour grapes on my part.
Well, no, I mean, I think the ending of the 19 finals is probably where the thing went incorrectly or in the wrong direction.
Right.
I don't know if the 2022 finals or the championship has necessarily set them back I don't view that championship as setting them back because I honestly think if they hadn't won it, they probably still would have tried to keep the big 3 together. I mean, Klay Thompson had just come back from injury. I guess Draymond Green the next year was in a contract season, but was still productive. I mean, if Draymond had played 74 games in a contract year, even if they hadn't won the championship, but let's say got to the second round of the conference semis, or the conference finals, I still think they would have probably leaned into the big 3. I mean, at the end of the day, you have the most unique dynasty from the fact that the 3 guys have been together the entirety of the time. And I just don't know if they were willing to give up on that.
Right.
I just felt like, maybe it's now 2 years later, you're under the reality, you're under this idea that you can't just kind of retool around them. Like in 2022, they lucked out on a couple of really good veteran mins, and now they're going to figure out how to try and move forward in the same direction.
All right, 888-957